Hi, everyone. It's so great to see so many familiar faces tonight. We're so excited to bring you this very special edition of How It Started and How It's Going. For those of you who are new to this series, which we tend to hold twice per year, this is the Collectors Forum. This is where the collectors take it away. And I think this is our fourth in the series. Katie, is that right? We had Joe Seltzer, who's here tonight, kicked it off, and Dan Zobel followed up. And then we had Randy Pye, who's here with us tonight. Wow, this is a really serious collectors crowd. And I'm so glad and honored to bring you Suzanne Perrault. Just going to introduce Suzanne briefly for those of you who need an introduction to Suzanne. She is the co-partner, co-director of Rago Wright Auctions. She directs Rago's sales of 20th century decorative arts and design and the thrice-yearly sales of modern glass. One of the fastest growing auctions at Rago, she has built Rago's modern glass auctions into an international presence. She lectures nationally and serves as an expert appraiser on the hit BPS series, Antiques Roadshow, maybe you've heard of it. And on the show, she specializes in decorative ceramics and porcelain. Suzanne was born in St. Hyacinthe, Quebec, and received her bachelor's degree in English literature from McGill University in Montreal. She began her career as a fashion model in her native Montreal and in Japan before turning to the world of art and antiques. She became an independent antiques dealer following an apprenticeship with Barton Kaplan Antiques in New York and developed an early specialization in art tiles. In 1991, she joined ranks with David Rago, and together they opened the Perrault Rago Gallery in Lambertville, New Jersey. Suzanne also founded the New York Decorative Ceramic Society, co-authored Miller's American Art Pottery, Treasure or Not, with David Rago, contributed her expertise on art tiles to American Art Pottery by David, which was published in 1997. And she co-wrote the introductory chapter of American Art Tile by Norman Carlson, which was published by Rizzoli in 1998. She's served on the board of the Hunter Land Trust and FACT, Fighting AIDS Continuously Together, and is currently on the board of Fisherman's Mark, a social services agency whose mission is to strengthen the Lambertville community. She's also the mom of a black cat, which I hope to meet someday. And her business partner, David Rago, happens to be also her partner in love. And one of the reasons that we brought Suzanne to speak at this time is because of a sale at Rago. You might have heard of it. It's called, one second, Crafted in Wood, the Stephen Weinroth collection. And this show is actually viewable at the Lambertville location already. The sale goes live on July 14th. So with that, I'm going to welcome Suzanne to speak with you, and then we'll touch also a little bit on the show itself, right, Suzanne? Excellent.
Thank
Now,
you.
take it away.
All right. Hello, everyone. There's many of you that I have been reading about and studying, so I will do my very best. I'm coming to you with much gratitude and a lot of humility because you know a lot more about this than I do. I know the auction business, but turned wood is new to me. So thank you for being here. And I am going to tell you a little bit about who we are in business and how we got here and why I'm here with you today. So if it's okay with you, I'm going to share my screen. I have a little presentation for you, and then we'll come back and if you have questions, we can do that. Here we go. So this is our sale coming up. And I want to tell you about how our business started briefly. This is my husband in his 3/4-ton Econoline van in 1978, David Rago. He started in the antiques business when he was quite young, at about 17 years old, and ended up doing auctions because he thought that would be easy and lucrative and a good idea, none of which. And so we started doing auctions in New York in 1984, mostly at the Puck Building and then in other halls and hotels. And I joined, it says 91 in my bio, but we were involved, and I worked for him actually earlier than that, probably more like 1988. We bought the building where we are now in Lambertville in 1996, and that was a really fortuitous move. It had been sort of on the market and nothing was happening there for several years, but it was originally a silk hosiery mill, and then purchased by the Jockey Underwear Factory, and then an antiques business, and then nothing, and then us. So from 1996, it really gave us a home and made us a real bona fide auction house. And we are so very blessed to have this and to be here. We now have a couple of other buildings in town as well for more preview space for the art and jewelry departments and for storage. But I hope that you come over and meet us there and look at our previews. It's always great to have people visit. Just before the pandemic in 2019, we joined forces with Richard Wright from Chicago. Richard had been specializing in auctions of art and design since 2000. And a little bit after that, we purchased LA Modern Auctions in California, and then last year merged with John Toomey, also in Chicago. So we are now 4 auction houses, but it is all one company. It is one kitty. So when people buy from us, they buy from one company. When they consign to us, they consign to one company, no matter where this goes. We have, when David started the auctions and for the first few years, it was really specializing in the arts and crafts movement, mission furniture, studio pottery, ceramics, metalwork, and so on. And then we expanded to modernism and then paintings and jewelry and so on. This is the earliest I could find on our website from 2004, the earliest times we were selling turned wood, but I could swear that really from the 1990s we were selling turned wood. Of course, from the earliest makers would be here the Moulthrop family, Hapsakwa, James Prestini, Bob Stocksdale, and so on. Those were the most popular at the time. So we got a call from Kathy Weinroth earlier in the year. Her husband had passed away, and I'll tell you a little bit more about him. He had passed away in October, and she had this collection of wood and also of Hagenauer Austrian figurines. And one thing you do when you're an auction house is that everybody sort of has a little pocket of things that they do best, and there are pockets that just don't exist. And so when you have something that comes into you, such as contemporary glass, when it started coming in more in submission, somebody had to deal with that. And so it ended up being me. And I kind of learned on the job, and I'm doing that with turned wood as well. What happened here is that there are so few of these artists that had any kind of secondary market that it was hard to decide what to do with this and how to price it. So I did my best. We all did our best. The quality of so many of these works was so extraordinary. This was a collection that just took my breath away. And so I had to go for it. So I called Mark, and Mark Spheri has been a friend of mine and a friend of the auction house for many years. Mark, as you may all know, used to teach at Bucks County Community College, and Mark would come in and bring his class on a regular basis. And we really miss that, and he should go back to work so he can do this again. He would bring the class when we had previews for our modern sales. And you could tell them they would come in as a phalanx and just rush to the floor and get underneath pieces of Nakashima or Eshrik. And he would teach them with these items on the spot, which was really great. So he's done that for a long time, and many times I have asked him for help in many wood questions, and he has spoken at the auction house. So I thought perhaps he would agree to be our de facto wood specialist, which he has. So I am most grateful to Mark for doing that. We looked at photographs together, and he agreed that yes, we should definitely make a sale out of this, and maybe two. And so we made our way to the Weinroth's residence in the Bronx, and spent quite a bit of time there, more than once, going through everything and doing a first triage of what we thought would have a good secondary market as of now, as of 2023. And from that, eventually, everything got wrapped and brought over to Lambertville, spread out in many long tables in the back. And then we decided from that what we were going to put in a single sale, and then what was going to be left. You want to put enough of a certain type of work to create energy and to have these critical masses, or a critical mass of turned wood, many critical masses of different artists, but not too much to tip the market. So that's all a work in progress. So we did this. It was a lot of fun. I learned a lot. So our consigners, Mr. Stephen Weinroth on the right here, was an international financier, a partner in the banking firm of Loeb Rhodes, also a managing director at some point at Drexel Burnham. He became a collector probably in his early 40s when he had enough means to do so. He was a strong believer in encouraging young talent in any art form, any medium. So he was on the board for years of both the Paul Taylor and the Joyce dance theaters. He was a big dance lover. But once he went with Kathy to his art fairs and craft shows, and met the Delmano Gallery people, started talking about what it was that they had in their booth, and they explained what turned wood was about, and he just got completely hooked and started buying and buying and buying again. So he has collected many things, from sports cars to a lot of watches to beautiful fine art that they had all over the wall, to walking sticks. So all of these fabulous things. And so we have decided to do about 90 lots of wood first, and then about 50 lots of Hagenauer after. And all of that is going to be one day, July 14th. It's a live auction. It will also be streamed and can be bid on in many ways. So I'm going to show you here a very edited group of what is going to be coming up. And I'm going to tell you very little about these artists because I think that you all know very much about who these people are. So we have many more artists represented in the auction, and many more pieces by several of these artists. You're just seeing, you're seeing highlights. So obviously David Ellsworth is where I wanted to start because he is so very important to this field. Used to be down the road from us in Bucks County, is now, I believe, still in Weaverville, so outside of Asheville, North Carolina, running the Ellsworth School of Wood Turning. He has influenced so many woodworkers. One of the things that really speaks to me is the ceramic, the pottery aspect of this. And as you may be familiar with a specific quote of his, when he talks about his intent, he says his intent is to capture the simplicity of the form, the complexity of the surface, and the energy of the interior that is contained by the thin membrane of the wood that defines it. In this regard, it would be fair to call me a wooden potter. How much better can that be for me? If you're from the ceramics background, this is so fantastic. This is very much what Toshiko Takaezu, the ceramist from New Jersey and Hawaii, would believe in. So I don't know if they knew each other. I like to think that they would. Anyway, so we have this gorgeous piece coming up, which is called Ash Pot, is made of black ash burl, and it dates to 2012. And this lovely item here from Spalted Maple, and that is from 2010. That's about 6 inches in diameter. We have some works by John Jordan, who I'm sure was a good friend to many of you, so my condolences to you. The June AAW Journal, of which I am now a card-carrying member, yes, is filled with heartwarming testimonials about Mr. Jordan, one of its founders, and obviously also world-renowned. And everybody had only good things to say about him, his no-nonsense way, how good he was and how encouraging, but he wouldn't let you get away with anything. So his works are in the permanent collection of major museums, from the V&A in London to the Smithsonian in DC. So he makes these lovely, natural, pleasing vessels or teapots. Of course, we have some examples from the Mulford family. Mostly in this case, we'll have Philip and Matt, his son. So we have 3 generations of Atlanta-based woodworkers attracted to rotting wood, and why not, for its interesting texture, finished in their own heavy polyethylene glycol coating. And Ed was the one who was self-taught in woodwork and fashioned his own tools, as I found out many of the early woodworkers have been, and turned these vessels up to very, very large sizes. So Philip, his son, added his design of mosaic and bundles, of which I'm particularly fond, and Matt, the son, works in the same tradition and also tries to innovate, thinking he must have, it's a pretty big shadow he's under there. So these are lots that we have, Matt and Philip. And we have here the works of Bill Hunter. And as Bill and Marianne well know, the collection of the Weinroths was rife with some spectacular works. And I hate to talk about you in your face, so pretend I'll pretend you're not there. The work is quite subtractive, has sculptural rhythms, swirls of exotic woods very often, but works in other materials as well. Another self-taught artist, and went from carved solid vessels to these, which are open forms and absolute tour de force. I have become a huge fan. We had sold Hunter's works before, but never anything quite so spectacular. So this example is made of cocobolo from 2009. And this one is titled Into the Wind and is from 2007, and that is reticulated as well. And there will be several more. The works of J.P. Fennell are also well represented here, working in very complicated turning, carving, and piercing of vessels or baskets in found wood whenever he can. And he says, like many other artists, my main sources are derived from nature and architecture. And I look for patterns and textures within these sources. And from my perspective, I incorporate them within the hollow form aesthetic. So this is, to me, absolutely grand. And this is from the Rhythmic Patterns series. It's made of sumac, and it dates to 2007. One of my very favorite pieces in the auction, also by Fennell, from the Basket Weave series. How absolutely spectacular, and I guess very Asian looking. Maybe that's why. This is made of carob wood and dates to 2004. I'm just letting you look at it because it's so beautiful. Okay. The works of Ron Layport are also well represented in this collection. So they are not all going to go in this first sale. Ohio-born Mr. Layport went from furniture making and advertising to wood turning, and he works in these very complicated carving and enameling processes, impossibly fragile pieces. His art is about the connection of man to nature, all the way from the logs that are selected to the animals that are depicted. And every work is made from a single piece of wood. This one is titled Wolf Spirit and dates to 2012. And this is Dragonflies from 2007. How very delicate and elegant. We have several works by Bin Pho, which in glass we call him Bin Pho, but I've been told it may be Bin Pho. And so if you have a better way of pronouncing his name, please put it in the chat. Beloved and well missed. This artist from Vietnam moved to the United States after surviving work camps during the Vietnam War. And he's combined here this extremely thin wood turning, sculpture, painting, and also often art glass. This piece is titled Autumn Dream. It's from 2006. And we have these two. One is untitled, the taller one is Lost in Forest. And those are from 2007 and 2009. We also have works by artists who are working together, which I really like. And so we have here Bin Pho and Hans Weisflog. And we have several occurrences of Weisflog working with someone, which I find very interesting. This is Spiral Dream 2 from 2009. And this is one of the pieces that sold me on this collection. And I had to scream to my husband, David, come over here. This is so insane. And he says, yes, we have to take that. So the Weisflogs, father and son, Hans and Jacob from Germany, they're very well represented in this collection, doing precise turning on a small scale and sometimes very, very small scale. And Hans, the father, studied mechanical engineering and design, and Jacob is the inaugural honorary recipient of the 2016 Bob Stocksdale International Excellence in Wood Award. This is Rocking Bowl in Macassar Ebony, and this is a group of small boxes. We have several pieces by Ron Fleming from Oklahoma, complicated carving and long time polishing on turned vessels, and an amazing artist, both in concept and execution. He started out, as you may know, by being an airbrush graphic artist, and is also one of the founding members of the AAW and may still be on the MAW board. Is that correct? Is he still on your board? No? Okay. Was he ever on your board? See, that's how, yeah, that's how these things get started. All right, so we have a couple of pieces here. And this one of Buckeye Burl, which is also lovely. And continuing in this lovely round shape, we have a work by Avelino Samuel, a native of St. John, Virgin Islands, who retired from teaching to be a full-time wood turner. He got his MS in industrial education, and he's conducted workshops all over the place, including Airmont and other craft schools. This is from 2017 and is made of mahogany. Our beloved Miriam Carpenter, a RISD grad who is here with us today, and a personal friend, spent several years working at Nakashima with Mira and has shown art with you folks. Yes, the Museum for Art and Wood. Yes, yes. Okay. This is titled Find Your Bearings, a ball maze done for an AAW contemporary wood art auction in Kansas City in 2017, and was also exhibited in the Sphere second round, and also at the Salon Art and Design in 2017. So of course, she made this very complicated. This is a perfect puzzle, and there's only one way for it to work. And it has this little silver ball there that will go from the top to the bottom. And thank you for cleaning the base, Miriam. And this was hidden sort of like this in a photograph when Mark and I were going through these hundreds of pictures. And he says, what is that? no, that can't possibly be. Blow it up, blow it up. So we blew it up. He took a photograph with his phone. He texted it immediately to Miriam. Miriam writes back in 3 seconds flat. She says, "Where is this?" So there you go. There it is. Thank you both. So let's speak of Harvey Fine while we're here. We have several works by Harvey Fine in this auction, and more we'll do later. He is from Branchville, New Jersey, and he works mostly in non-round vessels, bowls, and platters in many media, not just wood. He does lucite, plastic. He's taught at many places, including Peters Valley, and has developed also his own techniques and tools. So these are from 2007 and 2012. A nice group by Vaughan Richmond from a family of woodworkers in Australia who was influenced by Art Nouveau and classical art. I am most grateful to Albert Leacoff for finding out who this was, because these are all signed and completely illegibly. So when Mr. Leacoff contacted me about finding out about this collection, and he generously offered to drive up with his wife Tina, and they spent several hours looking at all of our works on all these tables, and it was so it's really satisfying to see that, and just to feel these pieces, look at them, but also help us find what we could not find. So he was really really most helpful in deciphering many of these pieces. So many thanks to you. I fell in love with the works of Jacques Vessery from Maine. Heavily carved vessels, platters, and teapots or bowls that he does in often repetitive patterns. He calls that between utility and fantasy. And he says that they're beautiful small objects made along divine proportions. And is that not the truth? So we have here from the left, that's a wrap. In the middle, I can barely pronounce that, tritubatime. And on the right, roll away the dew. So I'm thinking he might be a deadhead right there. That's anyway, all these from 2008. We have some works by Keith Holt, multimedia sculptor from Maryland, and a gymnast by trade who does lots of figural work with, as you can see, lots of humor. So on the left, we have Duet, and on the right, the alluring from the Yin Yang series. And these are from 2014 and 15. And I got to really appreciate the works of Holly Tornheim, who is in the Sierra Nevada foothills, and house building and carpentry have led her to wood carving like this. And all the design and the execution is done by her. She is completely self-taught, an exceptional craft person, working in very elegant and sophisticated designs. And we do have a few of her works in the sale. And speaking of elegant, works of Grant Vaughan, 2 pieces here, an Australian engineer and architect. These are made of beech. I have no date. You're all familiar with works by Christian. I don't know if his name is Americanized to Burchard, or if he's still German. But he came to the United States from Hamburg in 1978. At the age of 23, he studied furniture making, sculpture, and drawing, and is now in Ashland, Oregon. And he sculpts these vessels, baskets, books, scrolls, and bones, and very often in wet madrone. And there's a very good article on him in the June AW. And so these are 5 works from 2006 through 2012. Pascal Houdet from the French Alps works in paper-thin multi-axis turnings of local oak, and he calls that oak lace work. And we have a few examples in this auction. And oddly enough, whenever people are seeing these, we've had a few people in the back before the works moved to the cases up front, and there was only one reaction, which is Pascal. That's it. That's what it brings up. Pascal. So we have a couple of Pascal. Here we go. A Diabolo and a bowl here from 2017. From Geneva, Switzerland, 2 works by Jérôme Blanc of nettle tree and acrylic paint. And that seems to be very much a design that he does. I was taken by these immediately when I saw them, and I thought, we need to have these. You may well be familiar with the works of Mark Spheri's former pupil, Derek Weidman, and maybe one of the youngest artists that we've had in this group. He is from Green Lane, Pennsylvania. He teaches us at Airmont. He works with chainsaw on a lathe, does multi-axis turning sculpting, and he is an excellent presenter. He works with animals and has this weird science fiction kind of aesthetic. I think he might be a gamer, and we have several of his fine examples here in the collection. This is from Liam Flynn from Dublin, Ireland. And what he wrote about his work is, I feel I've been making the same vessel for the past 30 years. There you go. Keep on doing it. These are from fumed oak and bleached holly. We have one large piece of segmented turning from the Tower series by Bud Latvin. Laminated, constructed. He looks at these Tower series as 3D canvases with rim carving, open windows, and color mirroring. And it is terrifying to move. We have several works by Dan Kvitka, who grew up in California and studied industrial design at the Arts Center in Pasadena. And he trained in making knives. And he turns and carves these simple, strong, and elegant shapes out of exotic woods, and he oils and waxes them for a significant amount of time. Now lives in Oregon. So this is a big piece. It is over 14 inches tall. Dates to 1998. Everyone knows, well known and well collected, the award-winning spoon master, Norm Sartorius, who went from psychiatry to woodworking, and a favorite of Stephen Weinroth's, who had a beautiful collection of his works. This is an Argo spoon from 2010, made of curly Nara. We have several works by Mike Schuler of Santa Cruz, California, also done in segmented turning. And he calls the Organica vessels formed from natural objects such as pine cones or blossoms such as thistles and artichokes. And these are done through subtractive process involving resin impregnation and the lathe to reveal a beauty from within the form, usually hidden from view. So well collected also by Mr. Weinroth, as are works by John Sauer. And ornamental turning, which he's been doing on a Holzapfel lathe since childhood. We have several of these gorgeous works. An artist born in Kenya, now in New Zealand. These are terrifyingly thin. His name is Gordon Pembridge. You may be familiar with him. And he expresses the natural history through hand carving and enameling. So he throws these, he doesn't throw because that's ceramics. He turns these extremely thin and then hand carves and then enamels them. There are videos as to his process. This particular one is called Vessel with Zebras, and we have 2 such vases in this sale. We have several examples by Steve Sinner, a self-proclaimed tinkerer since childhood and a 3rd generation woodworker. And he grew to make clocks and furniture before turning to wood carving. He believes in repetition, precision, and quality that are present from his years in manufacturing. So this first vessel here is called Blue Cubes from 2005. And this is a very large piece, stands upwards of 17 inches tall. and that is from 2007. Mr. Weinroth was very fond of the work of Michael Mode, and so we have quite a few of his covered vessels. Some of them reveal games, and the pieces are so tiny that you have to use these tiny, tiny little tweezers to move your chess pieces or your backgammon pieces. He is from Quakertown, PA, now lives in Vermont, and designs these very complicated forms, laminating several woods in geometric patterns, and is influenced by Moroccan and Indian art. And we also have some lovely works by Mark Nance from Connecticut, in turned and constructed wood art, inspired often by ancient artifacts, very precise works. And these are from 1999 through 2003. So these are the works that I'm showing you today. What you're not seeing are more examples, including Gianfranco Angelino, Dixie Biggs, Jack DeVos, Sharon Doughty, Dewey Garrett, Giles Gilson, Michael Husselik, Bert Marsh, Graham Printle, and Melissa Engler, Bill Smith, Kurt Theobald, and Joel Buruti. So this is when the auction is going to take place. There's a lot of information on our website about the preview, but as I said, it says here preview starts in July, but everything is already out and beautifully displayed. So should you decide to come up to Lambertville at any time, just let us know, and we're happy to show that to you. If you are interested in bidding and you don't know how, that can also be found on our website, or you can contact me and I will walk you through it. You can contact us this way. And please don't miss Mark Spheri's talk on the 6th of July. This is a live talk. It will also be streamed or recorded, or both, at 6 p.m. at the auction house. This should be a lot of fun, so I'm very much looking forward to it. And he is going to be looking at, he can tell you about this. I'm not going to step on you, Mark. You can do your own pitch there, buddy. And that's it. That's what I have for you. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Thank you, Suzanne. That is such an exciting presentation. And despite your humility in discussing wood, I think you did a great job. Your research shows. And I would like to ask, first of all, being that this is the first, I guess, total exhibition of wood turning focused work. I'm interested to hear about your experience, and also maybe you could talk us through the process of, you know, when you receive word of a collection, you know, what happens from that point to, in any material or media, from that point, and how you get from there to then to the sale.
Sure. So we are offered property all the time, 24/7, whether we're open or not. People either call, send emails, or we have a central system where a lot of this is just gathered, and all of the specialists go in on a regular basis. Many people have specialties. For example, any art pottery will go to my husband, David Rago. Lots of design will go to Richard Wright or Meg Whippen or Peter Jefferson. I usually take care of the contemporary glass, and now I'm the go-to wood person, which is kind of terrifying. So we have a full fine art department, and they're also very good, and we go through a lot of fine art. We have a jewelry department and so on. Sometimes you get a submission for one piece. Sometimes you get a submission for a large collection. Often it's a whole mix of many different types of things. That's called a multi-departmental submission, which becomes a little trickier, but we're professionals, damn it, so we can handle it. So when you look at this, you have to see that at some point, the auction house makes enough to handle this. It's very expensive to do what we do. Almost all the works have to come in. I say almost because if you have something like a Chihuly chandelier, not much more than that, just like a big Chihuly chandelier, something really complicated, we will photograph that in situ and work off of those pictures. But everything else has to come in either to LA, to Chicago, or to New Jersey. We get this in person. We feel it, we look at it, we vet it, we photograph it again, photograph it a third time. It's all described. Everything is there so that if you can't see it in person, you will get all of the information possible. We agree with the consigners on where we think it's going to go, how it's going to sell, how well it's going to sell. If the estimates are too low, we lose money. We can lose money as long as we can make money somewhere else. We can't just lose money. So we can't just take in pieces that are worth $500 because we will lose. But if you have a piece that's worth 10, we will take many lesser pieces. So we agree with pre-auction estimates before we get anything. And once that is agreed upon, a contract is written and then emailed. The contract is signed, and then we are going to look to get the pieces in person at one of our places. Either somebody brings it in by themselves, or we will get them some quotes to get it shipped to us. And then we do all the photography. Okay. Once we've done that, it goes into a specific auction. Sometimes we don't know in advance which auction it's going to go to. Sometimes we do. Certain things are very obvious and will only go in one place. Other things are much broader. We all do fine art. We all do design. So there are many ways. So when people say, well, what's the next sale? There's so many sales. Let's not schedule this around a sale. You just get it to us whenever you can. Then the design teams will take these photographs and do their magic. There's no one better than our people and the folks in Chicago. They're the best in the world. They will make these spectacular online catalogs. For specific sales, we will still do printed catalogs. We used to do only printed catalogs for a long time, many, many years, which were difficult, clumsy, cumbersome, and expensive. And when pretty much when COVID came and everything got gummed up, right? So people didn't want, first of all, people didn't want to touch anything that had been out there. They didn't want to have something that was like out in the public. And so that was gross to them. Plus the post office got to be so very slow. That system got to be so slow that very often people would receive their printed catalogs after the auction. So there's no point in doing that. So then we started doing almost only online, and people seem to be quite happy with that. People are also bidding online a whole lot more than they used to. We used to have a room, the first auction we had, it took us 4 years to buy this building because we thought no one will ever come outside of a major metropolitan area to buy fine decorative arts. Like, who's ever heard of Lambertville, New Jersey? I mean, they'll buy from us in New York, maybe in Philly, of course, or in LA, but not in Lambertville, New Jersey. The first weekend we had an auction here, we had over 450 people. The place was packed. People were so happy that we had moved here, and they said, we would never come to your auctions in New York City. We didn't know where to drive, to park. People would break into our cars. The Puck Building was in the best area of town. It was just too expensive. And so now they came here, plenty of parking. It was free, it was easy, it was safe. So this has been very good. So it's great to get, and for all of the auction houses for Toomey and Wright and Lama, Rago takes in a line share of everything that is accepted. So we are like, this is like a big funnel here in New Jersey. So that's why we need so much room. So we do the previews, we have these gorgeous catalogs, we do previews, we have an actual live sale. Almost all of our auctions are live. They're also online. You can follow them, but if you want to be in the room, it's always much more fun for us, certainly, to have live in-room bidders. And then we send you an invoice if you bought something, you pay if all goes well, and then we arrange for shipping or you come pick it up. And then the consigners get paid. That's how it works.
Thank you. Being that there are so many artists in this conversation right now, and then of course people from our side of the equation, where we, you know, all of us in this conversation care deeply about the health of art in wood, and specifically in the case of the Weinroth collection, wood turning as a sculptural medium. And so we get very we get very tense and on the edge of our seats when it comes to secondary market performance.
Sure.
Could you talk a little bit about the calculus that you employ in order to make that balance between you know, engaging the public's interest in this sale, but also thinking about the long-term cultivation of the work of artists in this field?
Or how one prices these works.
Yes.
So as we saw, some of them we have been offering for many years. The Moulthrips, there's a lot of Moulthrips on the secondary market, so that's not hard. You're pricing them things that have a secondary market already. You price comparably to other works that you have sold. Hope that's the very best. That's the best comparable, is what your own auction house has sold in a similar size by the same artist in a similar medium, done at around the same time. Those are the easy ones. When you start going out there and there is nothing that has come up, because the artists like Derek Weidman, for example, are so young, they're still very much working. Then you go on Artsy, you go on eBay, you go on Etsy, you contact the artist, you go on the AAW. That was great, and I think I got this from you, Mr. Leakoff. You go back to the AAW auctions, all of them, and you see, now they don't have estimates, which is kind of a cheat. So you never quite know what people are expecting to pay. Where are we starting here? Are there reserves? They're pretty opaque, the AAW. But it's good to see where things ended up selling over the years. And they have 2 days, right? And I think one day has more reserves than the other one. Okay, so that filled in a lot of blanks. And then I also ask a lot of people. I poll a lot. And so when I had a pretty good list of my photographs and descriptions and condition reports, I started sending that out and say, how do you feel? And I asked Mark again and again. We did this again and again. What do you think? Is this a good group? Is this a good price? Is this too high, too low? And then you adjust. And we published on Friday. So the catalog was live on our website on Friday. But I heard back from some friends who are collectors, and they said, I think this is a little too high. This is a little too low. I can see that on this gallery, they sell new for this. So you can't price the works on the secondary market as new works. It doesn't work that way. Works are worth what they're worth. They're not worth what you've paid for them originally, which I know is a terrifying concept to the artists and to the collectors. Believe me, I live with this all the time with glass. We try to honor every work that we sell. I take none of this lightly, none of this for granted. And especially coming to you folks today and all of these artists who I hope I get in the next few years, I get to know you personally, but right now I don't, and you don't know me. And so I had to be very careful not to get hate mail from the way we were pricing anything. So I tried to get as many resources as possible to price. And this is still, with all of that, it is a canary in the coal mine auction. I have a large collection from someone else entirely that is waiting for me in LA. And if this goes well, and if we've priced okay, then we will use that and price these other ones. There are many similar works and similar artists over there. So
Thank you so much. I think that helps demystify this process for a lot of us. And Albert had a question that he added to the chat, and please, anyone else here tonight, if you have questions, throw them in the chat, and we will make sure that they get to Suzanne. So Albert's question is, why do auction houses usually set price ranges around 1/3 of their original or online selling price?
because we need, and sometimes it's a quarter and sometimes it's 1/10. We need to encourage people. An auction works with completely different, and if you have been at auction, you understand, and if you have not, it'll be strange. We need to encourage as many people to bid against each other. An auction is performative and it's based on drama and competition, which is completely the opposite of selling works, whether they're new works or secondary market works, but it's totally different from selling works in a gallery, as you may well know. So when you put works for sale at the Museum for Art and Wood in your gallery, they can be there for a prolonged period of time, and people will come and look at them, and then they'll think about it. You'll have be-backs, and then eventually they will sell. Now, you have your retail price, and then you'll be asked most likely to discount some, and then part of the price stays, part of the money stays with you, and part of the money goes, I would think, to the artist. At auction, you don't start from high to low, you start from low to high. And the more people you have bidding against each other, live, in the room, on the phone, on the internet, wherever, that's what's going to fuel your auction, and that is what's going to make good prices. We are now offering more and more lots with a little blue flag that says no reserve. We used to have no reserve auctions, which we still do, but everything else had a reserve, like a floor bid, a price below which we would not sell. Now we are offering more and more unreserved auction pieces, and people love that. And it builds so much competition, fun, interest that, yes, you're taking a risk, but you can also end up with a much higher price. And an auction is a risk reward. Why is it that anyone would put their works at auction? Because there's a chance that you're going to get a really good price, which is great, but you also have to take a chance, Mr. Bleekoff, that it may sell at 1/3 of retail. But ultimately, between the money that ends up going to the artist and from a retail sale, between the money that would go to a consignor from an auction, they kind of meet there very often. And sometimes we get more.
Thank you. Dan Zobel has a follow-up question. How do you determine the premium rates? He writes that he's seen auction houses with as little as 5% premium and up to 25 and over percent. Do you think that premiums risk devaluing the market because the premium has to be factored into the buyer's price?
Sure. My husband hates buyer's premiums and he thinks it's a fraud. I don't. I think that without buyer's premium, it's really hard to pay for your staff's salary and medical bills. So we at Rago's have a 26% buyer's premium. And when it was suggested to us that we raise our buyer's premium from 25 to 26, David and I thought, oh, that's just terrible. Who would do that? And then we started looking, and all the other regional auction houses, plus the really big auction houses, everybody was at 26 already. So we said, all right, we'll do 26. it used to be zero. When auctions started, it was nothing. Then it was 5%, then it was 10%. When David started in the early 80s, it was 10%. But he would also get a pretty substantial seller's commission. And now more and more sellers are fighting us for commission. So the commissions from the seller are very variable, always. They're organic. It depends on the value of each piece. It depends on the aggregate value of the entire collection. The buyer's premium, or the tax, right? That is fixed after the hammer price. That is fixed. So as long until we change it. But I mean, it is fixed for everyone, every lot, everything. So depending on what you are giving us as a seller, you will have from zero. I mean, they're great lots that we are given, things that we really want that are worth a whole lot of money. Not only will we do it at zero, we will give you back part of the buyer's premium. But if you give us things that are more modest, then it could be up to 15 or 20%. If there are things we really don't want, you'll get 20. Like, we'll do this courtesy for you, but we're going to charge you for it.
Thank you. I wonder, zooming out a little bit, now that you have this sale up, what do you think? What's your takeaway in terms of thinking about different niche materials or sectors of studio crafts? Like, what is your reflection in the present, in this kind of suspended moment of wood turning?
Okay, so because you said craft in general, and then you went to wood turning, I'm going to just, if I may, go back to craft for a second, not to take anything away from wood turning. I was recently at the Toledo Museum of Art, which has, if you have seen it, an entire section of glass. It has a museum of glass. It has its own glass building filled with glass. Glass is what they do in Toledo. It was Libby glass, it's glass money. The newest, biggest piece they had in this glass pavilion was a fabulous, gigantic piece of ceramic. It was a studio ceramic sculpture. And I thought, well, that's really interesting. A, that they would be buying that, and B, of all places, because they have a big museum in the back, a big art museum with all sorts of stuff. But they decided to plop this ceramic sculpture in the glass pavilion. When you walk into the Michener Museum right now in Doylestown, Pennsylvania, you will see the first thing in the first gallery is a big board about studio ceramics. So I'm very excited about wood, and I'm going to continue doing this, and I hope to handle many other collections. But there's also something about studio ceramics that is really hot right now. It is frothing up. Also, I think textiles is coming back a lot. And I know nothing about them, but I'm willing to learn.
What would you suggest to artists who work in wood to raise the profile of wood in the larger contemporary craft space?
I've heard of something called social media. Some people go there, they like it, they go many times, like sometimes more than once a day. And it's like a big meeting marketplace. And I think that seems to work for many, many people, to advertise, to sell. I heard that was really satisfying. I don't go, but people do. That I would recommend that also. But of course, you keep doing shows. But you know, there used to be so many of the big craft shows, right? SOFA and everything, and now not so much. But people are now so willing to buy sight unseen, which I can't buy a T-shirt online, but people just buy expensive art without ever seeing it. You can't feel it, you can't touch it, you just don't know, but they do. So that online would be very good.
That is fantastic. I hope everyone here is listening and taking notes. And on that note, if there are no other questions, I think we will say thank you so much to Suzanne for sharing your candor and wisdom with us today. It's been very, very educational,
Thank you.
and I'm very grateful for your sharing.
And
today.
I want to thank you, Nava, for Nava wrote a beautiful essay, which is in our catalog, and I encourage all of you to read it. I want to thank Katie also for all her help, Mr. Leakoff, Mark Spheri, everyone who has been there. The Kobachs are here, so thank you for your help as well. It takes a village. Miriam Carpenter.
Well, I would say that, you know, we're really excited about this sale, and we all need it to succeed. So we're, you know, just call upon us, and you have, and we've been very eager to help do whatever we can to raise the profile, make sure that people are bidding enthusiastically, dramatically, as you mentioned, and making it the event of the season.
Thank you. And thanks to Tibshaw also. Thank you for sending this our way. No small thing. Sorry about that.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Katie, you want to add something?
No, I just wanted to thank everybody for joining us tonight. It was really lovely to have you all here and learn a little bit more about the auction process. And Suzanne, thank you for sharing that with us. It's fascinating, and I hope to come visit you very soon.
Please do. Thank you, everybody.
Excellent. Take care.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Good to see you.